For 900 years, no ship had ever crossed the skies of Drexel without permission. Not once, not ever. The Varnach Empire ruled this planet with an iron grip. Their warships floated above like dark gods, always watching, always ready to strike. People below lived quiet lives, never looking up too long, because the sky was not theirs. The sky belonged to the Varnach. But today, something strange happened. Something that no one had ever seen before. It began just after sunrise. The air buzzed for a moment, too fast for most to notice. Then, slowly, silently, a black dot appeared high in the atmosphere. It was small at first, like a shadow against the blue sky, but it grew larger with every passing second. By the time people noticed it, it was already too close. No alarms went off, no warnings were given. It simply appeared, like it was already meant to be there. In the capital city of Varnach Prime, thousands of aliens stood still in the streets staring up. A mother clutched her child. A worker dropped his tools. A soldier whispered to another, "What is that?" None of them had an answer. On the viewing screens across the city, the High Lord of the Skyfleet, General Krovex, appeared. "All citizens of Drexel, remain calm," he said in a cold voice. "An unknown ship has entered restricted airspace. It will be destroyed shortly." But the people were not calm. Because this ship, this thing, did not look like anything they had ever seen before. It had no visible engines, no heat signature, no weapons. It moved slowly but smoothly, cutting through the clouds like a shadow in water, and it ignored every warning the Varnach sent. 3 Varnach warships rose from their sky docks and locked onto it. Their weapon systems were ready. Thousands watched as the great guns turned toward the unknown object. A warning was broadcast in over 50 languages. "Unidentified vessel. You are entering restricted space. Turn away or face destruction." There was no reply. A second warning. Then a third. Still no reply. General Krovex gave the order. "Fire." 3 warships launched their missiles toward the black ship. Everyone held their breath. The missiles flew fast, screaming through the upper sky, trailing fire and smoke. But just before impact, they stopped. They didn't explode. They didn't miss. They simply stopped. Frozen mid-air. The warships tried again. More missiles, more laser shots. Nothing worked. The ship remained untouched. Then, the black vessel began to change. Lights moved across its surface like flowing water. Symbols appeared. Ancient symbols that had not been seen for over 2,000 years. A forgotten language. And one symbol stood out. Bold, red, and burning like fire. The symbol of Earth. Chapter 2. The Varnach panic inside the War Command Center deep beneath the city. Alarms screamed. Generals ran between screens. Scientists shouted warnings. Everything was failing. "The targeting systems are offline. We can't lock onto it. All scans are returning nothing. It's like the ship isn't even there." General Krovex slammed his fist against the table. "How is this possible?" A younger officer approached, his eyes wide with fear. "Sir, this ship, it's broadcasting something, a voice." Krovex frowned. "What kind of voice?" The officer swallowed hard. "It's human." Everyone in the room froze. "No," Krovex whispered. "That's impossible. The humans were destroyed, burned from history. Nothing survived." But then the voice played, calm, low, and haunting. "You've forgotten what fear feels like." Silence filled the room. Some turned pale. Others refused to believe it. "That can't be real," someone whispered. But deep down they knew it was real. Chapter 3. The Empire remembers. Far away in a hidden archive beneath the palace, an old historian named Trevek watched the news in silence. His fingers trembled as he touched the screen. He recognized the symbol. He recognized the voice. He had spent his entire life studying the human wars, wars that the Empire swore never happened, wars they buried, wars they lied about. But Trevek knew the truth. The humans were not weak. They were not primitive. They were dangerous. Brilliant, and when pushed too far, they became monsters. He pulled out an old, dusty data crystal and whispered, "I warned them. They never listen." Chapter 4. The Ship That Waited. Outside, the strange ship hovered in perfect stillness. No sound, no movement, but it was watching. A young Drexilian girl named Arca stood with her grandfather in the city square. She pointed to the ship and asked, "Is it alive?" Her grandfather stared up, his face pale. I don't know. The sky had never felt so heavy. So silent. People across the planet waited, afraid to breathe, afraid to speak. Then the ship began to move. Not fast, not sudden. Just a slow, steady descent toward the capital. The Varnach fleet scrambled again. More warships rose to intercept it. Fighters filled the skies, but none dared fire again. The first wave had failed, and everyone knew this ship was no ordinary craft. Chapter 5. The Forgotten Enemy. In the command chamber, a technician ran to Krovex. "Sir, we've scanned the ship again. It doesn't match anything in our records, but..." "But what?" Krovex growled. "It matches a partial energy pattern found in a classified battle record from over 2,000 years ago. A battle in the outer void. The file was locked." Krovex's eyes narrowed. He opened the ancient file. His face turned white. He read the name aloud, barely able to speak it. The Black Sun Project. Only a few had ever heard of it. Fewer survived it. The file ended with one final message, written by a dead commander. "Do not approach. Do not engage. If seen, run. It does not. Forget." Chapter 6. The fear returns. That evening the sky turned dark early. The ship remained above the capital, casting a long shadow over the city. Children cried. Soldiers watched helplessly. The once proud Varnach Empire had no answers, no control, and, still, the ship did nothing. It just waited, and that terrified them more than any attack ever could. Back in the palace, a quiet debate began among the leaders. Should we talk to it? "No! That could wake it! It's already awake. We must find out what it wants." General Krovex turned toward the others. "We destroyed them. Long ago. Burned their worlds. Erased their name. If this ship is from them, it is here. For one reason only. Revenge." Chapter 7. One message. At midnight, across all screens and comms, one message appeared in the human language. It was short, simple. Return what was stolen. No one knew what it meant. Not yet. But the older ones, the historians, the secret keepers, the ones who still remembered the truth, they understood. The Varnach didn't just destroy Earth. They took something from it. Something the humans had, hidden, something this ship had come to take back, and it would not leave until it did. At exactly 0400 local time, the skies above Drexel turned blood red. Not from war, not from fire, but from fear. The Varnach fleet, still floating around the silent black ship, had decided to act. General Krovex, ignoring every warning in the old files, gave one final order. "Crush it. I want that ship turned into dust." He couldn't take the silence anymore. He couldn't take the way it just hovered there, watching everything, doing nothing. It made him feel small, and the Varnach were never small, not in their minds, not in their empire. So the order went out. All ships, full attack. Hundreds of fighter drones launched. Massive capital ships fired their beam weapons, missiles, plasma bolts, hyper-frequency disruptors, weapons that had wiped out cities in seconds, now aimed at a ship that hadn't moved in hours. The people of Drexel watched from their windows, their streets, their screens. Some cheered, others stayed quiet. The sky filled with fire. And then, nothing. Every missile stopped. Every laser beam scattered into sparks. The plasma melted before reaching the ship's hull. The disruptors backfired and fried their own launchers. The black ship didn't move. It didn't fire back. It didn't need to. Because this wasn't a battle. This was a warning. Chapter 2. Silence Answers. General Krovex slammed his fists onto the command table. His voice was shaking now. Why isn't it responding? Why won't it attack? A young officer turned slowly. Sir, I think it's not here to fight. Not yet. Krovex stared at him. Then what is it doing? The officer swallowed hard. It's judging. Chapter 3. The human marker at. That same moment in a small research lab far outside the capital, Dr. Zeltran, one of the few remaining alien historians who still studied forbidden human texts, stood in front of a glowing display. It showed a symbol from the ship. A single sharp-edged mark. She had seen it once before in a ruined archive beneath a forgotten moon. It's a marker, she whispered. A human memory trigger. They used to plant them across the stars, places that mattered, places they promised they'd return to. Her assistant leaned forward. What kind of places? Zeltran turned pale. Graveyards, vaults, prisons, sometimes all three. Chapter 4. The Vault. They took in the highest tower of the Imperial Palace. The real secret lay locked behind a thick wall of light and silence. They called it Vault D17. Only 3 beings in the entire Empire had access to it. Inside was a small, black cube. Smooth, cold, silent. It had no buttons, no screens, no lights. But the moment the ship appeared, the cube started glowing. Soft red pulses, in rhythm, like a heartbeat. The cube had not pulsed in over 2,000 years. Now it would not stop, and no one knew why, except one man. Chapter 5. The survivor in the deepest prison below the city. A prisoner opened his eyes. He had been locked there for centuries, kept alive by machines, hidden from all history. His skin was pale, his body thin, but his eyes were sharp, burning with something no one in this empire truly understood. Human. Rage. His name was never spoken aloud. It had been removed from records, erased from time. He was the last known survivor of the Old Earth War. Captured, studied, then forgotten when the Empire grew too proud to care. Now he smiled. They came. Back, he whispered. They finally came back. The guards outside his cell didn't know what to do, because the lights were dimming and the walls were starting to crack. Chapter 6. The second message, at noon, the ship spoke again. Its voice echoed across all screens, across all devices, across every corner of Drexel, the same voice as before. But this time it was louder, clearer, angry. You were warned. You did not listen. Return what was stolen. People began to panic. Streets emptied, stores closed. Sky traffic stopped completely. And in the war room, Krovex shouted, "We don't even know what it wants." Dr. Zeltran, brought in by emergency order, stepped forward. "You do know," she said quietly. "You just don't want to admit it." Chapter 7. Buried truths. Years ago, when the Varnach defeated the last of the human colonies, they didn't just destroy Earth's cities. They stole things, strange machines, locked devices, encrypted, minds stored in crystal cores. Most of them made no sense. But one thing was different. A living vault. A containment unit built by humans themselves to hide something dangerous, something they never meant to release again. The Varnach took it and stored it in Vault D17. No one knew what it did. Until now, because now it was pulsing, stronger, faster, as if calling home, as if the ship above the city had finally found it. Chapter 8. The first real strike at sunset. The sky flared bright with white light, no weapons fired. No enemy ships arrived, just one beam. A single narrow beam of light shot down from the black ship and hit the palace. It didn't explode. It passed through everything, walls, floors, shields, and touched the vault. Alarms screamed, generators failed. Backup power collapsed. The cube inside the vault floated upward, glowing brighter and brighter. Then it spoke. In English. Signal received. Retrieval in progress, and at that moment half of the capital lost power. Every defense system failed, and the prisoner began to laugh. Chapter 9. The mistake General Krovek stood in the ruins of the palace, breathing heavy, eyes wide. What have we done? There was no reply, only the deep hum of the black ship above, and the final message of the day sent in quiet, deadly English. One chance remains. Comply or be removed. The people of Drexel no longer cheered. They no longer watched with curiosity. They began to pray. Because the thing they feared most was not the ship. It was the silence after each message, and the knowledge that the next message might not come in words, but fire. The beam of light was gone. The sky turned dark again, but something had changed. Far below the capital, inside Vault D17, the black cube was floating above its stand. It no longer pulsed slowly. It burned bright red now, lighting up the room. In a steady, violent glow, the guards had already run. The security bots had shut down. The room was empty, except for the cube, and the walls were starting to melt. Not from heat, from memory. Chapter 1. The sound from the cube. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the cube made a sound. It was soft. A whisper, like an old music file being played through a broken speaker. Then came the voice. Human echo detected. Vault access code confirmed. Awakening protocol initiated. No one had heard human technology speak in centuries. Not like this. Not with a voice that felt alive. And as soon as it finished, the vault door started shaking. No one touched it. It opened itself. Chapter 2. A door to the past behind the vault door was not a chamber. It was a hallway, long, lined with strange black walls, marked with glowing human runes. The hallway had not existed before. It wasn't there yesterday. The Empire's sensors said it led nowhere. But when drones were sent in, they vanished after 60 seconds. No signal, no wreckage, just gone. And then a message appeared above the vault entrance. Authorized. Personnel only. Terra Command eyes only. Do not proceed without clearance. The Varnach Empire did not care about warnings. They sent in soldiers. Chapter 3. No one returns. 12 soldiers entered, all of them armed, trained, silent. They wore the best armor in the Empire. They had never failed a mission. They never returned. Not one scream, not one signal, not one sound. And then on the screens outside the vault, words appeared in blood-red letters. Final warning. General Krovek was watching from his command ship in orbit. His hands were shaking, and for the first time, he said nothing. Chapter 4. The Survivor's Truth. Deep in the prison, the human prisoner stood up. The cell lights flickered. The walls cracked. The machines keeping him locked began to fail. A single guard remained, too scared to run. Why is this happening? The guard asked. The prisoner stepped toward the cell bars, slowly, his voice low. You took something from us. The guard blinked. We took many things. The human nodded. Yes, but this one was never yours to take. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't treasure. He looked up at the ceiling. It was a lock, and you broke it. Chapter 5. What the cube held back in the command room, Dr. Zeltran stared at the live feed from the vault. The black cube had now split into several pieces, each hovering in the air, spinning in slow circles. Lines of red light stretched between them, forming a strange 3D symbol above the ground. She gasped. I've seen that before, she whispered. Her assistant turned to her. Where? She showed him an old scan from a forgotten moon, hidden in the restricted archives. The symbol was the same. Below it, in ancient human language, were just 3 words: do not open. Chapter 6. The Beam. Returns at noon. The black ship above. Drexel moved for the first time, not much, just a rotation, a slow turn. But every sensor on every ship around it screamed at once. It was aligning. The main cannon on its underside shifted downward, pointing not at a building, but directly at the vault. The Empire's defense systems tried to activate. They failed. Every shield shut off. Every weapon refused to fire. It was like the ship was rewriting the laws of energy around it, and then with no sound, the beam fired again. This time, it didn't stop at the vault. It entered the hall beyond it. Chapter 7. The gate unlocks inside the vault hallway. The walls shimmered, and at the end of the hall a door began to appear like a shadow turning solid. It was huge, smooth black metal covered in ancient text glowing softly. The beam from the ship touched the center of the door, and it opened. What lay beyond was not a room. It was a chamber of stars, a pocket universe, a sealed place outside time where something had been kept waiting, something old, something human. Chapter 8. The Guardian inside. The chamber floated a figure, humanoid, still, silent, wrapped in silver armor glowing faintly blue. Its helmet was shaped like an eagle, and its chest plate bore one word: Terra. The figure opened its eyes. They burned white. It stepped forward, floating across the space between dimensions, and spoke only one sentence. This world is in violation of ancient law. Judgment begins now. Then it vanished. Chapter 9. Across. The skies across Drexel, people screamed as the sky flashed white again. But it wasn't the ship this time. It was the Guardian. It appeared above the capital, then above the outer cities, then above the military bases. At once. As if time no longer applied, it raised one hand, and the fleet in orbit started exploding without warning, without weapons, just silence and death. One by one, Varnach ships blinked out of the sky like candles snuffed by wind. General Krovex shouted into the comms, fall back now!" But no one could run fast enough. The Guardian wasn't destroying ships, it was erasing them. Chapter 10. The prison breakback in the underground prison. The human prisoner's cell door slid open. No power surge, no alarm. It just opened. He walked out past the terrified guard and said softly, "You wanted our secrets." He stepped over the broken machines. "Well, now you have them." And then he vanished in a blink of light, straight into the sky. The skies were on fire, not with flames but with silence. All across the Drexel system, ships vanished. 1 second they were there, armed, ready, proud. The next, they were gone. No sound, no explosion, just gone, as if time itself had erased them. The black ship still hovered above the capital, unmoving, untouched, watching, and then something new happened. From the far side of the system, another human signal was detected, but it wasn't a ship, it was a warning. Chapter 1. A message. From the past, the message began with a code. Old Earth military encryption forgotten for centuries. Only human machines could read it. Somehow the Empire's sensors picked it up anyway. Then a voice played across every speaker in the capital. A calm voice. Female. To any who hear this, you have activated Protocol Echo. You have entered restricted human containment zones. You have broken the seals. We are Terra, and we remember. The message ended with 5 words that made every leader in the Empire freeze. Terra's last weapon is online. Chapter 2. The core awakens. Beneath the vault, deeper than any scan had ever reached, the planet began to shake. Not like an earthquake, More like something was moving underneath, something massive. Dr. Zeltran watched in horror as the ground, readings changed shape. The mountain near the capital wasn't a mountain at all, it was a door, a camouflaged launch bay, old human. A platform began to rise, tearing through stone and trees and everything in its way. And on that platform was a warship. Chapter 3. It was never just one ship. The warship rose in silence. Sleek, black, armored like nothing the Empire had ever built. Its engines hummed with energy that didn't match any known source. The symbols on its hull read TSS, Revenant. Command code, Deadlock Prime. Activation level, Terra Absolute. No one knew what that meant. But the moment it came fully into view, every power source on the planet dropped. Lights went out, weapons failed, time slowed, and from inside, the ship a signal spoke only one word: judgment. Chapter 4. Empire in panic. General Krovex was speechless. He watched his fleet die from orbit. Watched the planet tear open beneath him. Watched a ship, older than his civilization, rise from the earth as if it had just been waiting for this moment. He shouted to his crew, "Evacuate the sector. This is no longer a battle, it's a warning." But it was too late. The Guardian appeared again, this time inside the bridge of Krovex's flagship, in front of everyone. It looked at Krovex and said, "You were warned." Chapter 5. The human prisoner speaks. The human prisoner, now free, stood at the top of the Capitol Tower. No one dared stop him. He looked out over the city, then up at the Revenant warship. His voice echoed across the sky. "You broke what you didn't understand." He turned slowly toward the broadcast cameras. "And now, we're coming back. Not to conquer, not to take revenge, but to clean up your mess." Behind him, the black ship above the city began to pulse with red light. It wasn't alone anymore. Chapter 6. The Echo fleet arrives. One by one, ships began to arrive, not through normal space. They slipped in like ghosts, through cracks in the sky, through dimensions the Empire had no names for. Each one marked with the same symbol, an earth rising behind a sword. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't fire. They simply took position around the system. And then, the largest of them, all twice the size of the capital city, entered orbit. TSS Eternity. Command ship, Terra-class Titan. It had not moved in 6,000 years, until now. Chapter 7. Council collapse. Far away on the Galactic Council homeworld, panic spread like wildfire. They had laughed at the idea of ancient humans, had mocked the old stories, had hidden the human archives. Now ships from Earth's lost age were returning, and no one could stop them. Counselor Darnex shouted, "They left, they vanished centuries ago." An aide whispered, "But they didn't die, sir. They hid. They sealed their power away." Another voice joined the room from the shadows. "No, we sealed it for them." It was Counselor Tilai, the oldest of the leaders. Her eyes were full of dread. "I was there when they left." Chapter 8. The Revenant moves back on Drexel. The Revenant finally moved. Its engines glowed gold. Its weapons powered up, but did not fire. Instead, it opened a wide channel to the entire system. The same calm female voice from before returned. "This is a final notice. Humanity does not seek war, but we will not allow ancient containment zones to be broken. All species are advised to retreat from sealed zones. Non-compliance will be met with full system reset." No one knew what system reset meant until the stars began to shift. Chapter 9. The system shifts. From every edge of the Drexel system, gravity changed, planets moved, moons drifted off course, asteroid belts twisted into lines. It wasn't destruction, it was design. Like someone had drawn the entire star system on paper and was now correcting it. The warships were not just weapons. They were terraformers, engineers of space itself. The Empire had broken open more than a vault. They had opened a machine that controlled the stars. Chapter 10. The War Before Time. Deep in the core of the TSS eternity, ancient human records played in silence. Old battles, fallen worlds, extinct enemies, and the final war that humanity had hidden from the galaxy. Not because they had lost, but because they had won too well. Because they had become something too dangerous to keep awake. So they sealed their weapons, their fleets, themselves, and waited for a day like this, a day when someone would break the seals, a day when Terra would rise again. The Empire thought they had touched ancient ruins. They were wrong. They had disturbed a warning left behind by warriors who had once fought gods. And now, those warriors were waking up, not in anger, not in fear, but in silence, because they remembered what the galaxy had forgotten. There had been a war so large, so brutal that it was erased from all records. And in that war, humanity won. Chapter 1. Secrets Buried in Starzun. The Galactic Council homeworld, panic meetings had turned into shouting matches. Counselor Telai stood at the center, eyes full of sorrow. "I was a junior archivist when it happened," she said. "I read the files before they were sealed. Humanity fought something we couldn't see. A force beyond logic." Counselor Darnex laughed. "Stories. Myths. Nothing else." "No," she said. "It was real." And then she said 3 words that silenced the entire room. The Silence War. Chapter 2. The Silence War, thousands of years ago, before even the oldest known empires were born, a dark force moved through galaxies. It wasn't a species, it wasn't a fleet, it was a presence. Systems fell quiet, suns stopped burning, planets vanished with no trace. They called it the Silence. No one knew where it came from, but one species stood against it. Humans. They didn't just survive. They fought back, and they won. But victory came with a cost. Chapter 3. The Price of Victory. The humans had built living ships, weapons that thought, adapted, and remembered. They didn't just destroy the silence. They erased it. But after the war ended, the humans did something no other species had done. They walked away. They hid their weapons, locked away their machines, and vanished. Not because they were defeated, but because they feared what they had become. The last thing they said before going dark: "If we wake again, it means the silence has returned." Chapter 4. The Empire's Regret on the Planet. Drexel, General Krovex, watched as the human warships held position. None of them fired. None of them moved. Yet they had full control of the system. Krovex whispered to his second-in-command, "We thought we were kings, but we were children playing with fire." He stared at the TSS Revenant. A single ship, still silent, still waiting. Then a message came through. "You have broken containment. Protocol Terra is now active." Chapter 5. The prison was a shield, Hikyo. Empire thought Earth had been a prison planet, cut off, forgotten. But it wasn't a prison. It was a shield, a barrier between the galaxy and the remains of the silence. Earth had sealed away its weapons not just to protect others, but to hold back what was left of the ancient enemy. When the Drexel Vault was broken, it wasn't just a ship that woke up, it was the silence too. And now it had felt the stars again. Chapter 6. First signs of return. In a distant corner of the galaxy, a listening post went silent. Then another, then 6 more. No wreckage, no explosions, just complete stillness. The same pattern from the old records. The same way the silence began last time. Human ships immediately repositioned. Fast, precise, like they had been waiting for this, and in their silence. The Empire saw fear, not human fear, fear of something worse. Chapter 7. Humanity's True Enemy. The TSS Eternity sent a system-wide message. It was not loud, not threatening, but cold, Precise. Containment has failed. Stage 1. Echo returning. Primary protocols engaged. Defensive alignment complete. No one understood what it meant. But then, across the galaxy, old human satellites came online. Hidden eyes, long thought dead, began scanning deep space. They weren't looking at the Empire. They were searching beyond known space, and what they found was movement. Chapter 8. Message to the Council. A human hologram appeared in the center of the Galactic Council's Great Chamber. Not real. A recording triggered by Terra's awakening. It spoke in clear, slow English. If you are hearing this, we are likely gone. We left not in fear but in duty. What we fought cannot be described, only felt. You may not believe, but if the silence returns, you will not stop it. Do not challenge our ships, do not follow them. Let them finish what was started, or everything ends. Chapter 9. Signs in the darkness. The stars shifted again. Patterns appeared across space. Lines, coordinates, old war routes. The human warships had begun to move toward them, not to invade, not to fight, but to reach something. A place. A seal. Maybe a prison. One that had cracked. The Empire realized the terrifying truth. The humans had returned, not to destroy them, but to protect them. Chapter 10. The Galaxy Watches. Millions watched the skies in silence. No war broke out, no shots fired, just the slow, terrifying movement of human ships toward the edge of known space. Counselor Telai stood alone in her office, staring at the stars. "This is not about empires," she whispered. "It never was." And far away, in the dark between stars, something pulsed, a flicker of light, a soundless hum, something ancient and very awake. In the cold emptiness between stars, far beyond Empire maps or Council records, a shape appeared. It was not a ship. It was not a station. It was a door. Black, silent, impossible in size. It floated at the edge of existence, wrapped in ancient warnings, and, as the human warships approached, the stars themselves seemed to dim, because this was the place even time had forgotten, the Gate of Shadows, where the silence was buried, and where it waited to return. Chapter 1. The Forgotten Seal. The TSS Revenant came to a stop facing the massive black gate. There were no lights on the surface, no sound, but the sensors screamed warnings. Behind that gate was something alive, something wrong. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge. Her voice was calm. "Seal condition. Broken. Containment must be restored." The crew nodded. No questions. No fear. They had trained for this. They were not soldiers. They were keepers. Chapter 2. The First Awakening. Deep behind the gate, in that endless dark, something moved. It wasn't a creature, it wasn't a machine, it was more like a shadow of thought, a hunger that remembered light, and it remembered the pain. The pain humans had given it last time. Now it reached again. But before it could slip through the crack in the gate, humanity was already there. And this time they didn't plan to fight. They planned to end it, forever. Chapter 3. The Ancient Fleet. Rises from nowhere, dozens of human ships appeared. Not built, not launched, but awakened. From asteroid shells, deep oceans, even inside stars, they had been hidden since the last war. Each one different, each one deadly. The galaxy watched in awe. It was not a fleet, it was a ritual. The old warriors had returned to the final battlefield. Chapter 4. Message to the Galaxy Across. All systems, a simple message was broadcast. "Do not interfere, do not come closer, this is not your fight. What waits here must never touch the stars again. We were the first, we will be the last." And then the gate began to open, not fast, not loud, but deep, endless, like a scream with no sound, and from within, something stepped forward. Chapter 5. The Face of the Silence. It had no body, no form, just a suggestion of shape. It bent reality. Around it, ships flickered, lights dimmed, thoughts became foggy. The Empire's greatest minds went mad just watching the footage. The Council begged the humans to run, to stop, but Reyes stood tall on her bridge. "We've seen it before," she said, "and we're not afraid, because humans were not fighting to win. They were fighting to end the game forever." Chapter 6. The last weapon from the TSS Eternity, a weapon was launched, not a missile, not a bomb. It was a memory, a compressed echo of the First War. Everything the Silence had ever feared, replayed in its mind, its defeats, its weakness, its final loss. The creature shrieked without sound and tried to retreat, but the humans weren't done. The Revenant opened, and inside it was the Forge, the weapon that had killed gods. Chapter 7. The final lock. As the Forge activated, the gate began to close, but not with force, with time. The humans were collapsing the entire region, locking the Silence in a frozen loop, forever watching its own end, forever unable to escape, and to seal it. One ship had to stay behind. Reyes didn't hesitate. She sent a final message. "This is our gift, our apology, our warning. Remember who we were and why we walked away." Chapter 8. A silent goodbye. The gate closed fully, permanently. No explosion, no light, just silence. And then, nothing. The space where the battle happened became dark again, empty, as if it never existed. The Empire waited. Hours passed, days, no sound. The human ships had vanished, every one of them. No wreckage, no signal, just one final beacon. The sky is safe, but never forget, never awaken what sleeps. Chapter 9. A changed galaxy peace returned. The Empire didn't speak of war anymore. They didn't mock anymore. Statues were built, not of the humans, but of a closed gate, as a warning, as respect, and every year, on the same day, across all systems. Lights were turned off, for 1 hour, in silence, to honor the ones who stood alone at the end of all things. Final words. They came without hate, they fought without anger, and they vanished without glory. But in that final moment, the galaxy saw the truth. No one had dared defy the Empire but until humanity stepped forward, not to conquer, but to protect. And in their silence, they left behind peace, the kind bought by those who remembered the cost of forgetting.